Welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Unfiltered, where we bring the top professionals in the real estate world to you so you can get their real feelings about real estate. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty. So, today's guest, do you want to introduce yourself or you want me to introduce you?
I can introduce. Well, I like to
Okay.
hear what other people' impression is of me. So you introduce me, and then I'll go after.
Okay, so the way we met was actually at another panelist. I was doing a speaking engagement and she was there also. And I did not stay for the full thing, but I heard a little snippet. And then I started going on Instagram and I was like, oh my God, this lady knows her things. And she was giving me information. And I was like, you know what? If I'm learning something, I'm already in real estate. How many other people can she touch if we put on the podcast, put on the YouTube, and let the world just hear her voice and just further her reach, even though it's already like this. We're just going to try to push it more. So please tell us a little bit about yourself, Makeda Smith. The floor is
Okay.
yours. Talk about yourself. Brag about yourself.
Thank you. So I am Makeda Smith. I am the CEO and founder of Savvy Chicks in Real Estate, which is a global real estate network. We started out actually as a marketing agency back in 2017. Just grew from there. The way God has grown the brand over the last 6, 7 years. Now we're global, and global happened. I feel like over the last 9 months. And I don't ask me like, okay, did I plan for this? Because I had no idea. And I was even looking at my page like, oh my God, I've been here, I've been there, I know this, I know that. And my mind was blown. I was like, wait, you got to stop downplaying, what you're actually doing. And I said, you know what, my business can be as big as I make it. And I position myself when I decided that I was going to, embrace going global. I positioned myself for that online. And so I'm just excited about the countries that we're getting ready to, travel to in the upcoming weeks. You asked me how my day was going. I just got off a call with my broker in Ghana, and we were on a call where they're on a completely different time zone. And we had an investor that was interested in investing in a property. And at 3 o'clock today, after our call, I'll be on another investment call, but it will be with Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. And I was like, man, this is now life, and this is how it's going to go. But I thank God for the internet and social media, because it makes it easy for us to have access all around the world, just like this podcast.
100%. So we're gonna jump straight into it. Can you share your experience and your background in the real estate industry, and talk about? I know you touched on it. You didn't plan it, but how was it actually going into that international market, especially being a black female in real estate? That right there is a whole nother category of.
Yeah, so I think so. I have my own unique story. I got licensed in 2004 because my husband seen something in me that I didn't see in myself. He thought that I would make for a great real estate agent. I thought he was crazy, but I pursued it anyway. And here I am 19 years later, in real estate. And now I'm
You look like
international.
you're barely 19.
Huh?
You look like you could be 19. So for you to
Oh,
say that you've been in real estate for 19 years has me blown.
I appreciate that. Every time I get into an Uber or Lyft, they're like, "Wait a minute!" Like when they looking at my information, they're like, "How old are you?" And I'm like, "I'm 48 years old." And they're blown away. Yes, 48, 48 years old. And one of the things that with real estate, what pushed me to create Savvy Chicks in Real Estate is because I had been in the industry for so long. In 2017, I was like, look, nobody is helping real estate agents to have multiple streams of income. Multiple streams of income, meaning that you can have a consulting business, you can do real estate transactions, you can work with investors and charge a fee with the strategy that you have. You can create ebook, you can do a digital course. And so, like, nobody was really talking about that. You had a few people in real estate that had it, but they weren't teaching other people how to do what they were doing. They would
Mm.
ask them, of course, to be their client, but they weren't teaching them how to coach. They weren't teaching them how to consult. And so that's when Savvy Chicks in Real Estate stepped on the scene to create multiple streams of income. So our first conference in 2019, it was about, okay, how do we invest in the stock market? So I had somebody that could help, people to do that. I had somebody, attorney, to talk about, the legal aspect. Of course, we got the lending with the financing, but then what are our other options besides traditional financing that people are, known for, like the FHA, the VA loan, but what else is outside of that? And so from year one in 2019, when we started hosting our actual conference last year, somebody, our fourth annual conference was downtown Chicago. That was expensive.
Do you pick the same area every year, or do you move it around?
So I'm getting to that because last year we were in Chicago. This past June we were in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. Last year we had 275 people that were at our conference, and God told me that, okay, with me going international, to make it intimate. So I was like, okay, I know we had, it don't make sense. Like, we had 275 last year, but this year we're only taking 100 people to Punta Cana. And so we ended up taking 75 people to Punta Cana. That included the speakers, but people were blown away that I was actually able to get that many people to fly across the world to go to DR to be a part of this actual conference. And so that was our first time on international soil doing a conference. And so it
The
happened
crazy
quickly.
part is, though, is you built up to it. You didn't just jump and say, you know what, I'm doing international and get all these people. You built up to it. So it shows that every day you took a step forward and was like, I'm just going to work. I'm just going to work. I'm just going to work. And then, like you said, you spoke, you had a spirit, and something told you, push it even further now. And you
Hmm.
got 75 people to leave their jobs to spend a weekend or whatever, however long in
Yes.
another
Yep.
country to learn real estate. That's phenomenal. I can't
Yeah.
get 75 people to come to a party. You did it internationally. That's crazy.
You know what? And I hear what people are saying, and I have to, like, um look at it myself of what it is I'm actually doing, and like magnify this. Like, this is really, really huge. And I would tell people who are listening to the podcast now, I started my events in 2017, 2016, and basically nobody was inviting me to the real estate events. They weren't inviting me to speak on the stages. And so I was like, you know what? I got a voice. I can have something to say. Periscope gave me my first voice. And so I was like, you know what? Let me create my own event. So I tapped my good friend, my good client, and I was like, let's host an event together. We hosted an event together that went well. We had 40 people in the room. A couple of months later, we did another event. Then I started hosting small events, 40, 50 people. And then in 2019, I said, I think I'm ready for my first conference. Had my first conference. But it was last year that was the change for me. In 20, let me see, it's 23 now, 22. October, I got invited to be a international speaker in Dubai by someone that I actually know, who was having a retreat. And I was like, who, me? You want me? I thought you already had your speaker. She was like, no, I want you and your husband to come and talk about doing business together and what that's actually like. And I was like, okay, cool. I don't know about him because he's an introvert, but I was able to get him to come along. And we were on that panel. But from
Question.
there, mhm,
You got someone to fly you out to Dubai to speak.
yeah, my mind was blown. That was last year, October. We haven't even hit October yet. It hasn't even been a year yet. Let me tell you how God works. So in December, because my whole life changed when I went to Dubai. When I stood on in the desert, and I was in the middle of nowhere in the desert, looking at the sun, looking at these people that are around me that are brown skinned like me, and we are on international soil in a desert. And that was me at 47 then for the first time. And so I took my shoes off and I just began to put my footprints in the sand, and I said, Lord, enlarge my territory. And so I had no idea that he would do just that. And so you have an inkling, but like I had no idea that it would be this. And so by the time December came along, I came across an article, and it was talking about going to Bali and like going for $400. And so I booked me and my husband a villa for $400 for a whole week. But then I went and looked at plane tickets, and they were like $2,000 per person. I was like, oh my God, wonder why it's 400. So we ended up going anyway. We worked it out, put it on a credit card, and we went. Changed my life. You talking about one Dubai changed my life. Bali changed my life.
What did you get from going to Bali? Was it a different mindset, or was it just
It's
seeing
the
other places,
mindset.
knowing that you could achieve it? Because
It
you said
was
you
the
didn't know how you
mindset.
were going to pay for it. So that right
Exactly.
there was like you had to work on it, like how I'm paying for this trip because I'm going. So what
Yes.
was it?
I think if God would allow me to have seen the plane tickets first, I probably would have talked myself out of it. But because I seen the villa first and seen it was $400, I was like, "Oh, we going to this." But then getting that culture shock, that price shock, afterwards, it was like my mind went into business mode. Like, okay, what's the solution? Like, how are we gonna make this work? How are we gonna make it happen? And so we just put it on a credit card. We went, changed our lives. You know why? Because first of all, it took us almost 2 days to get there. So, we were having a different travel experience because we used to going to somewhere no longer than like 10 hours. We had to fly for almost 32 hours to get over to Indonesia because they have no straight flights. And so you have to have like, this long layover or whatever, but they have no straight flights. And so when I
That's
get
one of my
there,
fears too. I was thinking about going to Bali. My wife wants to go, and I'm just like, I don't want to be in a plane for that long. Then you got to stay in the airport. I'm just like, I
no,
don't know.
go. Let me tell when we went to Bali, and it was me and my husband first time. It was a good adventure together. Like it was good for both of us to have the experience together that we never had before. And so I understand that even when I take trips now, people are like, "Can my husband come?" Because a lot of times they don't want to experience another country without they mate being with them because it's something for the first
Especially
time.
when I feel like that's good when they align with you. When you align with your partner, you want to share new experiences with your other half because together you're a whole. So it feels like even if you go, you're missing something. Like that piece is
Yeah,
missing.
yeah.
That was really
And
good. So what did you gain from going to Bali? You had an adventure with something new. What else?
so it was from the moment we stepped off the plane, I was like, we in another country, another new territory that we never ever been before. So that was excitement by itself. It took us an hour to get to our villa. Marcel, the villa was in the jungle, like the real jungle. So we had never ever stayed in the jungle before. So when
So you were in the jungle.
Yeah, so when my husband and I were in the jungle, we actually were hearing noises from the jungle. And we got there at like 2:30 in the morning. And so the guys who was letting us into the village, they would sleep on the porch waiting on us. So they let us in. I'm like, oh my God, the bathroom was outside. And what I mean by the bathroom was outside, it was actually in our villa, but there was no ceiling. So a lot of times in a lot of the villas, it won't have a ceiling because they have tropical weather. And so like they let the water just come in. Of course, the toilet is on inside the sink so you don't get wet, but where you shower, you're outside. So that was completely different, but it was an experience that I never had before. At 5 a.m., what woke me up was the monkeys in the jungle, all the noises that I was hearing. I actually recorded it so that I could go around like this. And then I was like, wait a minute. I'm in the actual jungle. It's 5 in the morning. And so I put it on social media. I said, would y'all visit a villa in the jungle and listen to this noise? Some people said, no way. Some people said, yes. And so you can tell based on the experiences that people had and how fearless that they was. And so from there, we went water rafting. Let me tell you what I learned because God was dealing with me the whole time. I had COVID in 2021 and I was hospitalized and I was told that I was going to die by two, not one doctor, but two doctors. And for me to be able to make it to be living, breathing today, I actually, we went water rafting and I was like, okay, let's try this. I wanted to try for my husband, but my lungs still get tight, sometimes. And so I had no idea we were going to walk down some stairs to get to the bottom of the jungle to water raft. So I'm thinking I'm counting like 150 stairs already. I'm out of breath. I can't breathe. My husband telling the people, "Oh, she needs to go back because she's not going to be able to make it." I was like, "Don't speak for me. Don't tell them that I can't make it. I'm going to make it because I had already came a far way down the stairs. I wasn't going back up."
He like, I
So
already committed.
yeah. So when I got down those stairs, my legs was shaking so bad. It was shaking on the stairs. But I used my paddle to get down the stairs. Now this was just last December. And when I got down to the bottom, I burst into tears because I made it. I pushed myself. My lungs was tight. My heart rate was beating real fast, but I gathered myself. When we got on that water raft and we went down the river, and I seen like the monkeys that was carved in the walls, when I seen like the statues, and when we were going through and seeing overlooking like resorts being able to overlook the river, I was telling my husband, I said, this is something out of like Gilligan's Island. Like it was something
Jumanji.
yes, I never experienced before. And I told him, and we couldn't even capture it on video because they had took our phones, but we could not capture it on video. But it forever changed my life. When we went to the monkey forest, my first time having interaction with a monkey, forever changed my life. To where I went back to my villa and I said, God, what am I doing for 2023? And he said, you're going to have a visionary CEO brunch. And I began to have a brunch. That brunch sold out. I said, what am I going to offer? Because I always want to offer somebody, something else when I have an event. And he said, you're going to take them to Bali. I said, I just went to Bali and now I'm going to take these people to Bali. What happened after that? I made the offer. I got some cute little invitations, like some wedding invitations. I passed them out at the brunch. I had one person to book, and I was like, well, maybe I wasn't supposed to do this. I kept pushing marketing. In 2 weeks, we were sold out. In April, I took my first group of people to Bali for the first time ever. They'd never been. And because they stepped foot in Bali, they said, because I came with you, I know I can do it. Because I came with you, I know I can go back. And so people actually launched their businesses while we were on Indonesia soil because they wanted to do something great and grand. And people were recording for their businesses. They were taking pictures for their business. And so it expands your mindset when you get outside of the country and travel.
I feel like what happened was you got people outside their comfort zone. And once you
Yeah.
get them outside, they realize, wait, if I did this, what's stopping me from my business? They realize that anything's achievable once you believe in it. But you were the driving force. So you became a coach and motivated people because you said, this touched me so much. Let me help the next person. And I feel like that's something that more people need to do. We don't put our hand back to help people. Like, wait, I learned something new. Let me try to help someone. That's the first thing you did. You didn't even think about what am I just all about you. You said, how
Mm-hmm.
can I help someone else experience this?
Yep. Yep. And you
That
know what
takes a
else
lot.
happened?
What?
When I took that, I tell people that you're stuck because you're not making moves. When you start to make moves and you start to take steps and you start not to stay stagnant and
Feel
just be in your
uncomfortable.
comfort zone and you push through, God is going to give you what the next set of instructions are. And
Mm.
sometimes you can't get the next set of instructions because he can't trust you with the first set because you haven't moved on it. And if you haven't moved on it, how do you get the next set of instructions? And so when I went to Bali, that's when I got that I was supposed to be hosting a brunch. That's when I got when I hosted the brunch that I was supposed to take people to Bali. That's where I got, okay, we're not only going to Bali, but let's go to Egypt and Dubai. Let's go to Ghana. And then that's where I got, wait a minute, I need to be helping more real estate agents to go take their brand international. Because why are you just focused in on the United States when you can be international in multiple countries? And for the agents, it doesn't mean that they have to be an agent in all of these countries, but you never tapped into the fact that you can be an international referral source for your client. Saying, you know what,
Mm.
do you want to buy property in Indonesia? Okay, I got somebody that I can connect you to and earn a 25% referral fee, a 20, 30% referral fee just for the connection. But that's what happened when I went outside of the country. I started thinking bigger. And I'm not even thinking about just one country. It's multiple countries that God is sending me to, and He's sending me with people.
So you remove that box that most people's brains are in, and you said, Shh, I can refer all around the world. I can do more with my same brand, and now you're internationally known. So, what are some key factors that make international real estate? What do you think makes that market so unique compared to the domestic market that we're in?
One thing that makes it unique is that when you look at, and you're in the mortgage business, so you'll understand this. So when you look at the U.S. market, when you help people to get like a mortgage, it's like they're looking at 15 years, they're looking at 30 years. But when you are buying property international, a lot of them, they don't use mortgages. They don't have like all of the financing and the mortgage companies like that we're used to in the United States, but they have payment plans. They have cash payment plans. And what I'm telling people now, that even if you can't invest, just like we had people when we came back from Punta Cana, there was a husband and wife couple that they invested. It was two best friends that invested with each other. And I used Caleb and Joshua to describe it, that when God sent them out to go and spy the land, it was 12 of them that went down, but only two came back and said, we can take the land. And so if it is, you have one other person, two other people, or three people that can go in on a property with you. So if the property is you paying $7,000 a month for the payment plan, if you were to split that with somebody, it's a lot cheaper. If you were to put down $1,000 to reserve a unit,
If you were to put down $1,000 to reserve the unit.
yes, if you were to put down $1,000 to reserve the unit, then that makes that payment. You can split it three ways because you got three buyers on it. You can split it two ways because you got two buyers on it, or four ways because you have four buyers on it. And you can also buy your property in an entity. You can buy it in a trust. What I also love about international property is that a lot of times you can purchase property that is leasehold, meaning you only own it for a certain number of years. And that's the part that people don't know. But in Dominican Republic, the reason why I'm pushing even that today is that you can own that one freehold. And what does freehold mean? That you can own it forever. Whereas in other countries, you only own it for a certain amount of time. When we went to Dubai, my husband and I make it a habit every time we go to another state inside of the US to go and look at real estate. So we took that same concept and we did it in Dubai. When we went and looked at real estate, they said, well, you only own this real estate as a leasehold for 90 years. I said, 90 years. So then that's what got me thinking, like, okay, well, is it leasehold in Bali? Yes, 20, 30, 25 years. Is it a leasehold in Ghana? Found out it's 50 years. But in DR, it's freehold. You own it forever.
Yeah, that's how it is up here. The only thing you pay is the taxes.
Yeah, and then some properties like in DR, if we have what you call a comforteur tax. So if it's like an energy efficient building, and the builder is building that type of project, they have to apply to get approved. But once they do, whoever buys that property, you can have 15 years of tax free benefits of actually owning a unit. And then even I was just get off the Ghana call, and I was just told that there's no taxes, real estate taxes there. But if you're going to do a short term rental, then that's where you have to pay taxes, and then there's a percentage that you have to pay based on that, because now it's going to be an income property.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So, how does the economic and political factors impact the international real estate market? And what can an investor do to navigate it? So, like for example, if we're going to if war is breaking out, with Russia or something like that, does that play a factor into it?
Yeah, so I really haven't talked to my clients about that, but what I have been telling like the clients that are here is that I feel like something, I try not to sound like I'm fear mongering, but God always give you a warning before things happen. And like I feel like there is something that's coming, that we're supposed to be buying and having residency outside of the United States. I even told my son, who was 30 years old, I said, make sure all of you have your passports, even the three kids. Make sure you get the passports for them, including the baby. I told my youngest son, who was 24, I said, make sure you go and get your passport, because I need to make sure that they are prepared just in case. And just because we're in this country, that don't mean that something can't happen in this country, even if we're purchasing real estate outside of the US. The other thing that I'm saying is that as we look at like diversifying our portfolio within our state, outside of our state, so around the country, when we are looking at purchasing real estate around the world, you have to also make sure you're diversifying your portfolio around the world so that if one country is in gridlock or something's going on, you're not just in Indonesia, you're not just in Dubai. Like you have multiple properties going on. But it's also always good for you to have a connection with the local government for each country that you go to. And one of my plays that I always tell like my clients and even the agents is that you want to spy the land. You want to know, what does real estate taxes look like? What is their political climate? I was even looking at Ghana and I was asking somebody, I said, do you think that, no, not in Ghana. It's, well, Ghana has the same issue, I feel, to me, but in DR, I was like, okay, if an average family is making like $500 USD per month, what does that mean for properties that are renting for like 1,200 or 1,100? Do you feel like we're pricing people out that are locals in the community? And I was told no. And people have different opinions about that. But I am curious to see what the government is going to do in these countries where you have people from Europe and from the US and Canada. Canada is a big buyer that are purchasing these properties all around the world. What is it doing and how is it affecting the local economy
Economy.
outside of tourism?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
'Cause
outside of tourism.
it would definitely have some kind of impact because now you're taking away apartments that the locals could have used or rented, and it's straight for tourism. So when, like, if they do go on gridlock, then you have to figure out how you could just start renting it first. So I'm pretty sure it's some kind of. That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Uh, can you discuss any emerging trends or opportunities in the international real estate market that a potential investor like me, let's say I was thinking about it, like what would you say, what should I look for, what trends, where would you say would be a good place to get my feet started? Maybe I'm like, all right, Dubai is too far, Bali is way too far for me. What do you think would be a good way to start?
So I would say look at where people are taking trips to. Look at tourism. Where are millions of people going to? Somebody just dropped in one of our WhatsApp group. They dropped an article about DR and Dominican Republic, and they were saying how that's the number one country that is visited for tourism in the Caribbean islands. And I was like, "Whoa, that's good," because now that helps us when it comes to the investors to see that okay, people are coming, and so if they're coming, they're going to need some place to stay. And so you want to make sure that you're purchasing properties that are in areas that are close to like the beaches, that are close to the other attractions. I learned when I went back to DR last week that they got dinner in the sky now. So you would go to, like I experienced that in Dubai, but now they have it in DR. So they're putting things there and they're talking about building like a Disney as well. I have an agent that's in the Bahamas that was a speaker in Punta Cana, and she was talking about how Disney is getting ready to bring their employees over, and they are looking to house their actual employees and have been paying up to $45,000 per month for people to be able to stay. And so, for investors that are inside the United States, look for the opportunity. Look for the opportunity. There are places that you can get as low as 40, 50, $60,000. There are also some things that you can do that I've seen other people do. I haven't participated just yet, but in places like Kenya, they have you've probably heard of the arbitrage technique when
Yes.
it comes to Airbnb. So they're actually doing that in other countries. Now, for me, I was like, who gives you permission to rent out their property and you gonna give them a percentage of? And I, to me, it's crazy. But if it works for people, like it works for people. And so
Hmm.
people have figured out a way to be able to invest without actually owning the property. Kind of like, the wholesale market, here where they don't own, but like they're selling the actual contract. The
Yes.
other thing that I would say to people is that you can look and see where everybody else is buying, but then also buy in that area. But then is there another area that's up and coming where you can potentially purchase land and then 10 years, 5 years, 3 years from now, it can be worth a lot more. But nobody has their eye on this particular area. Case in point, when we were in Punta Cana last weekend, we stopped by this brokerage and he was telling us how he purchased land 15 years ago for $50. And he said that today he built a house that was 250 on it a couple of years ago. He has it on the market now for $9.7 million. So I asked him,
$50.
yes. So I asked him, where are the other properties that are, where are the other areas that are up and coming in the Punta Cana area? So he gave me a location that I'm going to drop here for the first time ever. It's called Michi. Yes, it's called Michi. And I haven't did my research on it yet, but look it up, y'all. It's in the Dominican Republic. It's called Michi. Find out how much that land costs and potentially look at buying that actual land. Now, if you want to buy that land, reach out to your girl so you know I can help you do that.
What's
But
your Instagram?
I'm sorry.
Shout out to Instagram.
Yes. My Instagram is Makeda Smith CEO. I also have Savvy Chicks in Real Estate as well. So make sure you follow me, you tap in, you get these resources that we have, and start tapping into our free investor call that we have every other week. So every other week we have an investor call. We actually have a property tour that's coming up in October. We typically either have it every once a month or we actually have it every other month, and it's being on the ground in Punta Cana, looking at the properties for 3 to 4 days, and you're actually like, looking at the dirt, seeing what's coming. And when you buy dirt, you're actually buying it and will have more equity in it in like 12 months because the price goes up like every few months based on how many people are buying. And so I would say, look at the land, see what's coming up, buy the land as well. And you know what the saying is, buy land and wait. Yep.
So, if you had to give us a list of your top three countries or top five countries that you would probably look at to invest in, what would they be?
So mine is Indonesia, number one. Like I love that country. Indonesia is Ghana, number two, and DR.
Okay.
But
Um,
understand that Indonesia is leasehold. Ghana is leasehold. I will still buy it because you still get the ownership rights to be able to do what you want to do with it now. And then you can always sell it before your leasehold is up. And you can also apply for extensions in those individual countries for additional years as well. The third country, mhm,
I'm sorry. Quick question. So, for a leasehold, let's say I have a condo or something in Ghana, right?
mhm,
After the 30 years, I no longer
50.
technically, after the 50 years, I no longer technically own that unit.
Right. But you can sell it before then.
Okay, so
Or,
then I would have to reapply for another 50 years.
yes.
That's
Now,
scary to me because it's like I paid for this building, I paid for everything, and you just gonna tell me it's no longer yours? That is
well,
scary.
see, that's the difference between buying inside the United States and buying in a country, and then in other countries that have different laws. You have to know people laws before you go over here buying the real estate. And this is why I would have my clients to actually work with an attorney on the ground. I'm from Illinois. We are an attorney state. I always recommend my clients work with an attorney. I don't think I sold any real estate inside of the Chicagoland area where I did not have an attorney. And if they refuse to get an attorney, I always make them sign.
That's the exact same thing with New York. We're attorney state because it gets too crazy out there. You need someone who has your best interest in heart, who knows the laws and things like that.
Yeah, and so for me, I want to make sure that my clients are well aware of what's going on. And so for Indonesia, even if they don't use an attorney, like we know, we want to find an attorney because I also want to make sure if they want to open up and not buy a property in their personal name, they can actually buy a property where it is in their business name or in that trust. And so I would like to have an attorney that would be able to navigate that for them so that they have the ownership in the entity that they want.
And it makes the transaction smoother too.
Yes, yes. Because, and also in DR, what's different is we as real estate agents don't write the contract. The attorney and the builder writes the contract.
Is it the same way in DR or is it different?
So that's in DR. So in Ghana, we actually write the contract.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But
Now, so your top rules. Yep, what were we gonna say?
I was just gonna say that, but I recommend an attorney.
Okay, so your top rules for a first time investor who's thinking about looking out of state, I'm sorry, out of state, out of the country,
You see how
internationally,
the language changing?
is yeah, is to do your research, find like I guess areas that tourists visit, get an attorney, and then obviously work with a good realtor like yourself who could connect me to people on the ground who could give me advice if it's a leasehold or what's going on. Does that sum it up? Anything we're missing?
Nope. So I think that that's right. So one thing that I tell both the real estate agent and also my clients is to make sure that like you're spying the land, like you're actually going out and seeing like what's happening in the land. What is the return on the investment? That's always one of the number one questions that
I didn't even
my
think about that.
clients,
You're right.
yeah, that they have, like, what is my return? How much is the property going for? So, like, for an example, we were just on a call with an investor for Ghana where we're selling this alleyway community where their properties start as low as $62,000. And so, with the $62,000 unit, but not the 3 bedroom, which is 70K. I was like, well, what is the rent going for? And so we were told that on the low end, if this is a low season, because everybody has their seasons, that it can sell rent for $700 per month. But on the high season, it can rent for as much as $1,200 per month. So it's very important for a buyer to know what the potential rent could be. Because in Ghana, December is that high month. That's when you have like the festivals and everything going on. So when we
That
go
New
in
Year
December,
party,
yes, they you know
everyone
they
goes to.
they tell me they're known for nightlife. So when I was planning my retreat to go over, they said, Makeda, don't come after the 10th of December because you won't get any business done because nobody is thinking about any business. They thinking about partying. So I said, okay, put me down for December 1st through the 10th, and then we'll be there. And so we're already taking a group of 20 people to Ghana in December.
I love it, and it's beautiful because you're viewing the world with people while you're having fun and they're also learning. So it's like it's a win-win.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I love it. And then, like, for me, my mission is clear: to help real estate agents to be able to be have their business all over the world, and also to help investors to invest all over the world. The beauty of what I'm seeing has unfolded that I didn't know is that these real estate agents are actually getting over here looking at these properties and they're becoming investors themselves. And that's what I
Really?
love. Yeah.
So, question: how has it changed your business? Are you still doing deals in Illinois now? Like, are you still actively going there, or it's like you stopped here and you're just focusing on international?
So let me tell you what happened. 4 years ago, I stopped selling real estate in Chicago. I maintained my license, so I am licensed here. We do have a real estate brokerage here. My husband is the managing broker of our brokerage, so we do have a company. But I haven't sold anything in 4 years. I just maintained my license. And the reason being is because Savvy Chicks and Real Estate has like replaced my real estate income, has taken up all my time. And so now, somebody asked me, like, how do you feel circling back around into real estate? I said, well, I didn't think about it like that, but I'm circling back into real estate. But I can't bring myself to actually sell property in Chicago no more. Like, I'm excited about these other countries. And so, me posting, I haven't posted anything about Chicago's real estate. I've been posting Ghana, Indonesia, Dubai, Ghana,
I see it.
the DR, exactly. So that's my focus. That's how my business has changed.
So, do you? You said your husband has is the managing partner on a brokerage. So, do you have anyone under your team that you still
No,
mentor? Okay,
no.
so you're completely like I just hold my license here. My focus is internationally. My husband deals
Yep.
with Chicago. That's his area.
Yep, yep. And then
What?
for me myself as well, with DR, I'm with Keller Williams Punta Cana. So in that the way that they have their commission structure broke down and their recruiting structure broken down, we can actually recruit people to the actual company and they can be a part of our downline. So there's profit sharing in that as well. And so I'm picking up on bringing more agents into the company, but letting them also know that they have the choice to whether if they want to be an agent in DR, they can under another brokerage, or they can join in with us where we already have the infrastructure and the network to where you can just tap in and fall right in line. So the three women that I took to DR on last weekend, one person within 7 days, she already just yesterday signed her first listing agreement. And I was like, and so now her mindset has expanded. And she's
Mm.
like, I didn't think this was possible for me. And she was like, my whole life has changed with this. And if she would not have went last week and pushed through and came on the ground with her husband, like this probably would not have happened to her with her this quick. But she came back excited. She came back on fire. And as she tells us, she came back a shark.
Do you feel like it's more meaningful to you doing it internationally because you gave up your real estate license, and I'm sure the way how much passion you have and how much you care for people, was it hard to just say, okay, I'm not focusing in Illinois now. Internationally is where my heart is, and I feel like I'm doing a bigger service or purpose that way. Did you see it like
Nope.
that?
Nope. Because these are still my people. When you build your business and like the people, so like Savvy Chicks in Real Estate, these are still women in real estate that are around this country. That from the time that I was teaching them to market on social media, from the time that I was teaching them how to create their own consulting business or coaching them on creating multiple streams of income, they have evolved with Savvy Chicks in Real Estate. They have evolved with me. So my audience has been on this journey. You would hear a lot of them. Sometimes you'll see in the comments, they'd be like, man, it's been a pleasure to watch you. It's been a joy to watch you. I remember when you were on Periscope, or I remember when, you was doing this. But now they see me like all over the world and I got people with me. And it's how did, like, I feel, some people tell me, I feel like it happened overnight. It didn't happen overnight, but what I kept doing was moving. And so every move led to a bigger move, to a bigger move, to a bigger move. And now that I'm international, I'm like, okay, how can I um, connect to government officials on the ground in these countries? So I just hired my first hire for the international. I hired my friend who has been with me for 6 years. She's been the first host of my conference in 2019, but I wasn't sure if I wanted her to be a part of this. She kept saying she wanted to, but I had to wait on God. And so now it was time to bring her on. And just yesterday, we were out networking. We met our keynote speaker that is going to be in Jamaica with us on next year. We already are set up to go to Greece. I told her, I need you reaching out to the brokerages on the ground. I need you reaching out to the minister of tourism business so that we can find out what they have for us as we're bringing people into the country. I need to find out if there's any resources because we're spending money as we go into these countries. I heard that the U.S. Reimburse you for these travel missions. So I'm tapping into like, what does that look like? And so for me, it's like a whole new playing field. It's a whole new level that I haven't discovered before. So everything is brand new for me, and but it's big things. Like how can I'm even thinking about how do I tap into these celebrities and these athletes to get them properties overseas because they have disposable income. But who's helping y'all to buy these properties over here in these other countries? And I don't have to be in all of these countries, but I can make the connection.
Mm. I love it. So you're already planning 8 moves ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you're figuring out how can I help it. You're bringing in new team members with a specific journey and mindset that hey, your job is to go to speak to the minister of tourism, see what other benefits that the country's giving us or the U.S. government will give us for
Mm-hmm.
creating bringing these groups of people to bring income into a new country. That's what it is. You're bringing money, bringing revenue. So they should be like, oh my God, this should be ecstatic because you're helping the economy grow. You're putting that extra
Yes.
money in that maybe if you even did it on a slow season, that like, hey, we don't have any much tourism coming now anyway. So this will be like, yeah, we'll comp some rooms. Like they're more willing to do stuff for you. So I see
Yes.
how the business has grown. And you bring up your faith often. Can you tell us a little bit about your faith and what got you into it?
So I would say that it just kind of like happened. I remember my mom waking us up one Sunday morning and she was like, "You going to church? We going to your auntie's church." and it was a small storefront church on the south side of Chicago, Church of God in Christ. It was called A Gift from God. And I went in not knowing what to expect, but it was what I look back now. When I went in at 14, it was actually my training ground. And
Mm,
so God used that pastor, who was also my great aunt, to like pull out of me what I didn't know that I had. That's like my husband seeing real estate. And so she was like, put me up for testimony service, made me sing in the choir, couldn't sing. I did spoken word poetry. I taught Sunday school. I taught Bible study. And I was like, I don't know the words. She was like, okay, you're gonna figure it out. Like go study, figure it out. And so from there, it just continued to grow. I was ordained as an evangelist at the age of I think I was 19, 20 years old. By 21, I was married to my now husband. So we've been married almost 28 years. And so it's just it plays a big role. I always try to keep my faith out of real estate, because they tell you don't mix, real estate and business with religion, but it's not really religion, it's my relationship. And somebody told me that it's a pleasure to watch you operate in your gift, and you mentioning, like you said, you mention it often. It's just a natural part of my conversation that they're like, okay, you got, Makeda and business here, but God is here. But it's like this. It's not, oh, let me put him to the side and then let me do this. It's like, no, we're together. We're one. So when we show up, this is how I show up. I do also
mm.
know how to be strategic, and I'm learning how to be strategic when I go into these other countries that may not have a Christian faith. And so it's like you always don't show your hand like up front. You respectful of their culture. You bring what you have to the table, and then when they ask, of course, then you can tell them if they're some people are going through, and some people may ask for prayer or for a word or for advice, and then that's where I pull upon my faith.
That's good. You touched on something that brings us into our next question. How does the different cultures affect buying in different markets? And I also want to touch on more of the legal aspect. Is there any legal frameworks that you would suggest or that we should look at?
I haven't ran into anything just yet, because DR is pretty much relaxed. Ghana pretty much relaxed. I haven't even been the crazy thing, I haven't even been to Ghana yet. I'm gonna go for the first time in December, but yet I'm an agent there. And
And
when
working
I
on deals.
Yes. And so when I was on the call, like my broker, she's always telling me about the culture. And she was like, they don't like to get right to business, Makeda. She was like, they want to get to know you first as a person before we get to business. Where in America, we like, okay, my time is valuable. Let's get to these questions and get to the outline of this presentation and move on. But they want to know, how did you get your name? When were you born? I'm like, I'm ready to get to business.
I
And
got
so
other stuff to do.
yes. And so you just have to, I'm learning the culture like as I go. So I don't really have an answer for it just yet, but ask me in a year. Cuz I'm
Okay.
learning.
What
Yeah.
about Dubai? Did you have any? How was that? Was it a culture shock? Because
So
you have to go with your head tie. Like, how was that?
no, so that's why when people ask me, I was like, I didn't know what to expect. But even like my husband, he was like, "Oh, cover your arm up, cover your leg up," and I'm like, "What?" I got on the dress. Like I joke often, and I tell people, I say, I think the men that came with us loved being over there, because when we got into like the vehicle to go places, like even to the mall when the shuttle picked us up, they didn't address me because I'm a woman, like because I was with my husband. Now, had I been by myself, they would have. But out of
Mhm.
respect, they addressed my husband and not me. And so somebody told me, well, them speaking to your husband is speaking to you. And I was like, well, I don't see it that way, but okay, I get, your point.
Yeah,
So it's
was
like,
there cultural respect?
yeah, so I had to learn. But then also with people telling me, oh, you have to dress from like head to toe. You don't have to do that, but you do have to respect their culture, to where if you were going to the mosque, yes, you do. So you can't come with the split in the dress or the arms out and all that, your shoulder out. Because I like one shoulder dresses and one shoulder shirts, but you can't come dressed like that to their mosque. Like you have to respect it. And so I respected the culture. Like my husband, he had on, his wrap. I had on mine, and I had on my License and Unbothered t-shirt in the desert, and I posted that picture. I was like, License and Unbothered is now in the desert of Dubai. And so I'm still learning about their culture. I did get a global consultant who told me, Makeda, when you go over here, like you need to make sure that you know where your U.S. embassy is. So I'm going to tell that to people who are watching now. Anytime you're traveling, and I didn't think about this, you need to know where your U.S. embassy is in any country so that you know how to get there quickly. Now, I did look for the U.S. embassy when we went to DR because I wanted to create some content with it, but it was 4 hours away in their capital, which is Santo Domingo. So I said, if we can't get to Santo Domingo, what kept coming up was the consular agency. I said, what is that? It's a division of the U.S. embassy to where if you lost your passport, you needed help, then you can go to the consular office. And we went there and we got content for that. But it's like I'm
Okay.
learning every time I touch down in a country, I'm learning more and more. So I'm able to bring it back. So it's exciting to be able to learn all of these different things.
You're a student of the game. It's not like you think you know everything or have all the answers. You're like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm new to this and I'm learning. And what I like is it's a big thing that I'm starting trying to do more of. It's called documenting the process. And that's what it seems like you do. With the savvy chicks in real estate, you
Mhm.
documented that. And now as you're progressing, the people who are following you are progressing with you. So they get to see the new Mrs. Smith. You know, they seen all of it and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so for me, it's just making sure that I bring people, like I'm not the type of person like you did ask me some questions. I'm like, okay, well, I'm still learning that part. I don't wait until I learn it all before I bring somebody along for the opportunity. I don't
Mhm.
know everything as it relates to real estate in all of these countries in every bit of detail because I'm not the attorney in them.
First of all,
But
there's a lot of countries you're in, so you have some. It's not all your fault.
right. So I'm not waiting on me to like know it all before I be like, oh, come to DR with me, come to Dubai with me. Like, no, you come now, learn with me, like do it with me, invest with me.
So, can you share some success stories or case studies that you feel like very proud of? Maybe you helped someone else invest. Maybe you invested it in an area and you saw the profit and was like, "Wow, this is really achievable."
So because this is new, so we're developing our case studies. I'm going to tell you about Punta Cana because with Punta Cana, when we went and we had our conference, we had about 15 speakers that was there for that weekend that we went. We actually had a real estate property tour on that Sunday. People minds
Hmm.
were blown looking at the real estate that was dirt, the new construction, seeing what the reservation. A reservation means down payment. So for those of you who don't know, it's your down payment.
And
It
the fact that they're going to see real estate, we didn't even touch into the fact that that is actually considered tax write-offs also because they have proof of the travel, they have itinerary. But keep going,
yeah.
keep going.
Okay. And so yeah, that's the Ghana trip. That's yeah, exactly. So for me, what happened when we left there was this one couple, and her testimony, her husband's testimony is on my page. But I said, what made you come? And he said, because I heard you talk to my wife, and I would sit there and I would listen to you talk to my wife. And he said that I would hear what you would say to her, and I was like, you know what? She knows what she's talking about. Like, and he seen that I wanted the best for his wife, so he already liked me because I wanted the best for his wife. So when he actually came to Punta Cana, he came on a property tour. He was in the room. He got to hear what the benefits were, like the furnishing package, the property management, why you want to have that, what the cost was, the reservation, the payment plan. And so they actually came back. They was like, I want to buy a unit. They actually put down their money, and now they actually have a unit. So not only is his wife an international sales agent, but they also became the first international investors to invest over in Punta Cana. And then the second case study that I would give is Brandy. Brandy is a agent. She's been with me following Savvy Chicks, a part of our membership and everything since like 2020. And since she always says since she found us, she never left. And so she came to Punta Cana, but she brought her friend. Her friend and her actually put down their reservation, and they're in the process of actually buying their unit as well. And these people have chose. There are swim up units. So swim up units is like swim out. So like when you go to resort and you like swim out, like you have units like that that you can buy for like a
Oh
hundred
wow,
thousand dollars. Yes.
that's
And so you
amazing. I
have.
love. That's the only thing I stay in now. I can't stay in another unit if it's not a swimmer. I don't even look at it.
Oh, okay, okay. So you know you have those that you can buy and that you can rent. But for her and her best friend to be able to buy a unit together, so now they're splitting the cost of everything 50-50. So it made it easier for both of them who are already investors inside of the states. They're also agents inside of the states. They became an international agent after the conference, and they also became an international real estate investor after the conference. So those are two that I can tell you about just recently that just happened. And I have more that will be coming.
Whew, I love that. I can't wait. So, what are some potential risks or challenges that investors should be, I guess, cautious about when they're investing in or entering the real estate market internationally?
So for me, it's just knowing those laws and knowing the rules, knowing what you're getting into. Even going back to the freehold and leasehold. Some people buy it and they don't know that they don't own it forever. And they
Hmm.
then got into a contract. Maybe they didn't use an attorney. That's why I will always say use an attorney because you don't know it all, especially with you going to another country. Now, after you did your first deal, couple of deals, maybe you don't want to use an attorney, and that's fine. But for your very first deal, you better use the people who are already on the ground or the people who are knowledgeable about that country and how to purchase real estate so that you can save money instead of losing more money. So that's what I
So,
would tell somebody who is a new real estate investor. And then if you're a little bit nervous about the financial commitment, see if it's possible, not because a lot of them do have cash, but they also have financing. So see if it's possible for you to get financing in that particular country. I even went to my lenders here and I was like, hey, I'm taking people out of the country. Do y'all have something to where if we want to buy international, that you will be able to help with that? This is so new. I feel like in the future it's going to get better to where we have more loan options for international purchases. But right now, it's I can't really. I only found one. They're in Florida, but they're only working with foreigners who want to buy inside of the vacation homes in Orlando. So I was like, okay, that's good to know, but it's not too many that I can find. They got international mortgage programs for people who want to buy outside of the country.
I'm
And so
very
that's the thing.
100% true. I'm going through that same issue. I had a friend who was trying to buy in Ghana and wanted me to do her loan because I did her loan up here, and it was like tooth and nail. I found some now, so we'll talk about that after. There are some options, but it's very tricky because it's hard to do appraisal from a third party country, third party country from out of America. They look at it as like it's riskier. The loan product, the loan
Yeah.
type is
So
riskier.
yeah, interest
So they
rates are
usually
high.
want you to have either high interest rates, more money down, or you have to have some physical asset here that they could tie you to because God forbid you just decide to up and leave and stay in that country. It's kind of hard for them to recourse the money.
But you see how
So
you just did that? That makes you a consultant to where you can be a consultant for people who are investors inside the United States, but they don't know how to speak the language to these finance companies that are in these other countries. And so that just made you a consultant.
I just got a new job title. Makeda, I'm definitely going to be having to talk to you because I'm going to need you to put me on your panels. So another seriously question, in your opinion, and I do apologize. Thank you. I know this wasn't supposed to be this long, so I appreciate you staying on. I'm going to
You're
try to
welcome.
wrap it up soon. In your opinion, what are the top qualities or skills that an international real estate agent should possess to be successful in this field?
So I would say the same thing that you need in order to be successful here in the United States. You need drive. Like you need that interior alarm clock that wakes you up and go after it every single day. I was looking at some of the agents who signed up to be a part of like, my downline, and I was like, okay, what are y'all doing? Like, what's going on? What are y'all doing? And so now I'm like looking at them like, okay, put this out there, put this marketing, invite people to this call. And so you have to have the same drive and tenacity that you need in order to be an entrepreneur, a real estate agent here, that you need for the actual other countries. The one thing that I'm finding is that people have imposter syndrome. They feel intimidated. They want to make sure that they give people the right information. Well, that's the
Mhm.
same thing here. And so what you have to do is you have to learn. And if you don't, we can YouTube, we can Google, we can. People don't want to read. They don't want to read. They don't want to watch videos. They don't want to learn. Like they just want somebody to give them all of the information. Well, as an international real estate agent, you have to figure out how are you going to make this happen for yourself, especially if you're going to take it serious. You have to do your due diligence in order to make sure it works. One of the things that my husband told me, because he's in real estate too, he was like, you're sending people over here to buy, like in these countries, you have to make sure that this stuff actually, you have to make sure that this stuff actually exists. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, like, you don't know if that project is over there on the ground. I said, you're right. But that's why I also have people that are on the ground sending us real time videos of the actual property. And then even having like my broker in Ghana, she actually have the team to go and look to see who actually owns the land, if they are the true owners, to see whether or not they have the rights to even sell the land. In
So
Ghana,
like
what
a
I'm also,
title.
yes. And so what I'm also learning in Ghana, if you are in this country and you buy land over there, you need to make sure that you are building on the land, it's gated, fenced, or something, because there are people that will come and squat on your land, and they will be able to claim ownership to your land and say that you abandoned the land. And so these are things that I'm learning as I go. And so, as an international real estate agent, you have to do your due diligence, because somebody can come back and say it's all your fault that, like this happens. And so, you just want to make sure that you do your research, your homework, that you plug in. My husband is a different breed. He was like, well, we can get our own company. I was like, no, we not getting our own company, real estate company in another country. We're gonna plug in where people already have their real estate business. And if God see fit in the future, we can have one. But while I'm learning, no, we're not getting ready to have our own real estate company.
I like that. You mentioned a couple things. You mentioned, first of all, having a good team, like what you said, is you plugged in with other people who already had a network, so you're utilizing that to help advance your knowledge. Two, you have the drive that you want to learn, but you also have the want to learn. Like you said, people just join your downline and they're like expecting the deals. Like maybe they just want to say the international realtors, but
Hmm.
there's no deals are just magically going to come if you're not putting that drive out or trying to learn. But the
Right.
crazy part is they're directly under you. They should be asking you for what do you post? What do you do to get more clients? Like, do you need help with anything? Like, I feel like you're a wealth of knowledge. So they should just be tapping into you more. Utilize you like you utilize the other agents and other brokers in the
Hmm.
other countries.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's what I'm doing now, even though they haven't asked for it, but it's what I'm doing now. But if I don't see that it's being received, it's nothing that I'm going to continue to do, because
Hmm.
I don't also like to waste my time. So if somebody needs something from me, then they can just reach out and I'll be more than happy to like share the information with them. But I'm creating these marketing materials that I use for myself. Hey, if you want to market it, just go on my page, pull something, and reshare it. I'm even telling agents that are in the US that are not international agents. I reached out to a few yesterday and say, hey, I'm paying a referral fee. If you see anything on my page, you want to share the opportunities in Ghana and DR, feel free to grab something off my page. I'll pay you 25% referral fee. They was like, okay, cool. I didn't think about that. I got you.
And you're expanding your reach by that too, because now
Mm-hmm.
you have all these other agents sharing you, and they're like, "Yo, wait, you're paying me for just sharing something?" And you're like, "Yeah,
Yep.
come on, let's keep going."
Yep. Yep.
So, last question, I promise. What's the one advice you would give the younger self, or advice that you wish someone gave you when you first started this?
It would be to trust, for me as my younger self, it would be to trust my inner voice. And so I'm still learning like how to hear it, but every day it becomes even clearer. Yesterday, I went to an event and I was just hearing, things that God was telling me about different people that were in the room. And I was scared to like say, "Oh, I think you are a business person. You are like God's getting ready to put you over a big company to where you're going to be able to bless people under you." And I was scared to say it. And then I heard somebody else tell her, and I was like, that's the same thing he told me, but I was scared to say it. So I would say to my younger self to trust my inner voice as I grow up. And so that
Mm,
could be an advice that, maybe somebody young right now, or even as an adult, they're not trusting their inner voice. And so like they're meek, they're mal about it. And don't take humbleness for meaning that you can't be bold. You can be bold and humble. You can be boisterous and still be humble. And that's one of the things that I learned. And so for those that are, watching, I would say make your move so that God can make the next step so that you can progress and move forward. By the time you look up 3 months, 6 months, 12 months later, you will be so much more further. And if you think that, hey, like I can't do it by myself, then see who you can partner with, see who you can collaborate with, what community can you be a part of. And in
mm,
this day and age, I feel like the second half of the year and even going into 2024, God is using collaboration. He's using
yes.
community. So it's us collaborating with each other, getting the word about what we're doing, what you're doing, Marcelle, what I'm doing, and then just tapping in. And so get out, collaborate, move so you can get your next set of instructions.
I couldn't agree with that more. That's one of the reasons why I went to this podcast. It was to highlight other agents and other people in the mortgage industry, like attorneys, other loan officers, like people who are doing such a great job that more people need to know about them, but also to help first time homebuyers or people interested in real estate, like investors that are just afraid because they don't know enough. So I feel
Mhm.
like this brings down that walls and it opens it up because now people are like, oh wow, I heard Makeda speak. She's friendly. Let me just hit her up on Instagram. Like it removes that fear because they see you're following, they see how many notifications and how many people comment on you, and they might just be afraid to message you. But
Mhm.
now this makes it more personable because they're like, she was friendly. She told me to message them, you know? Other agents are like, she said she was willing to pay me 20, 25% just for, if I can find a buyer. Like, I feel like this will help remove that barrier from the real estate and that
Yeah.
cult like group that people think that we have.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Because it's really community over competition. It's not the way that it was when I first started in real estate, to where they tell you, "Oh, don't tell this person your business because they're gonna try to beat you or be your competitor." No, it's community over competition. It's enough for all of us. And now, when you think about global and international, if you was in a crab box in the United States, we outside the United States.
I love it. Makeda, thank you for your time. Please shout out your Instagram, shout out any events or anything else before we wrap it up.
So, Makeda Smith CEO is on Instagram and Makeda Smith CEO everywhere, including LinkedIn, Twitter. Find me on Facebook. The other thing, Savvy Chicks in Real Estate, everywhere. I do want to invite you to join us for our upcoming trips. We're going to Ghana in December. We have 2 spots that became available. So if you want to join us, we do have 2 spots left. And then we're already booking for 2024. We have 6 spots left for Bali in January. And that's going to be a luxury experience on in the jungle and on the beach for 10 days. We have in April we're going to Greece. In June we're going to Jamaica. I haven't released the other dates, but we're going to be going to 2 countries, which is going to be Dubai and Maldives later on in the year in 2024. Each one of these retreats that we're going on, it has a real estate property tour. So we're doing excursions, learning the culture, the people on the ground, business, and then real estate property tours. So we know what the real estate purchases look like over there. And even if we're not going to be an agent, we can get with the people on the ground, refer business, earn a referral fee. And then the other thing that we're adding to that component of Savvy Chicks in Real Estate is missions. We want to do missions while we're on the ground. We want to work with organizations, schools, charities that are on the ground so that we are giving back as we're going into these countries. And so when you talk about culture, that's how we're going to learn even more by getting into the villages and the towns and just being a blessing as we go.
I love it. Last question, it came to me as you were speaking. So your packages, it includes everything, right? It's if they hit you up and say, "Hey, I want to go to the Greece trip," for example. It includes the food, the hotel. Like, what does it include? What do they get when they book with you?
So everything is on the sales page. So like for Ghana, it's 10 days. Like it's 10 days of activity. So look at that, but it does not include the flights. It doesn't include medical insurance or anything like that. You have to get those on your own. When we go to Bali in January, those flights are included. It's only going to be 10 people. It's an intimate trip. I'm taking myself, my husband, there's another couple, there's two best friends that's coming, and so like that's an intimate trip. Everything is included. When we go to Greece, flights are not included. But then we're staying 6 nights, 7 days. It's 3 hotels that are included with that. And so, and then the excursions and the property tour. When we go to Jamaica, everything is included as far as all inclusive resort that we're staying on Sandals, which is a new resort. We're going to Ocho Rios, not Montego Bay, because a lot of people go there. I want to go somewhere else. Let's learn some other culture in Jamaica. So we're going to Ocho Rios. Those flights are not included, but we still have people booking. And so it just depends on the trip. But some flights are included and some are not.
Okay, perfect. So you become like a travel agent. You help refer them to flights and everything too. You take care of all of that if they wanted to, or they take have to take care of that on their own.
They have to take care of their flights on their own, but I do have a travel agent that I can refer them to help them to like book their flights.
One stop shop. I love it.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Makita. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.